Nate G219 to help it back and better here. It's Monday morning, February 20th, about 4 o'clock in the morning. That's pretty early. But I'm going to get right back into where I left off yesterday's story at. Yesterday I left off with how at 15 a friend and I were arrested and a detective lied in an interrogation room. And at that point in life, up until that point in life, I had actually wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be one of the good guys. Although I was dabbling with the smoking of the pot for a few years, and it was a battle in my head whether I want to be a cop or what I really wanted to do. Because being a gangbanger really looked fun. But this took the cake. This made me decide that no way in hell would I ever become a cop. No way in hell. So, Detective Swickard, I owe that to you. You changed the course of my whole plans entirely growing up. I went from, wanting to be an officer of the law to not wanting to even have a cop in my vicinity. It was at that point in time where if we were walking in a group of 3 or more and a cop would pull up on us, we would all run in different directions. You can only chase one person, and it didn't matter which one of us he picked. We were all fast. He never caught one of us. No one ever caught us running from the cops. On feet, car, whatever. Nobody did. We were not the best people, but we were great at getting away from cops. Another thing that had led into the road of burglary, this was actually happened before I was arrested. This is, like I said, I was battling between which road I wanted to turn down. If I wanted to make a left or a right, become a cop, or if I wanted to become a gangster. We used to have this little mini mart down the road owned by Asian people, and a group of us, probably 12 or 13 of us, went in there, and this was my first time. Got a funny karma story about this at some point in time, but we had robbed the store of cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes, probably 50 cartons of cigarettes. Went out. We were in there for less than 2 minutes, walked in, walked out, had a couple people saying, "Where's the cat food? Where's the cat food?" And yeah, we were dicks. But, I was still battling amongst myself who I wanted to be. I was a teenager. I had some influences that were great. I had some influences that were not so great. And for some reason, the not so great ones seemed more attracting to me for some stupid reason. But anyways, I'm going to continue on. I'll get back to that whole we stole cigarettes story, because there was a big coincidence many years later with the three of us friends that were involved in that group during that robbery. Hold on a second, I gotta sip my coffee. Gotta have that go-go juice. Anyways, so between, that summer after the detective lied to us was, pure hell. We had cops looking at us, following us around. Our parents weren't letting us go out and do things that we wanted, and all me and Jeff wanted to do was ride bicycles. Man, we rode bikes everywhere. I know a lot of people don't know, but we rode from Portage to South Lake Mall, Maryville, which takes good 15 minutes on the highway by car. 25 it could take if you take the back roads. It could take you a little bit. It's not very far, but it's not close at all by bicycle. A group of us, one even on rollerblades, went all the way out there and all the way back. Oh, my mom was pissed. But we always rode bikes. So that summer, our parents weren't letting us go anywhere without them taking us, without having to check in hourly or every other hour, or we had to hang out at one of the houses. And at the same time, I also had met a neighbor, Tony, who's no longer with us, who would allow us to drink. You know, he was building a second story onto his house and teaching me a lot of things. And he would allow us to drink. Jeff wasn't as interested into building the house as I was. I wanted to build houses. I wanted to do stuff like that. I was learning, you know. I knew I wasn't going to be a cop anymore. So, sorry guys, I got a little head cold and everything too. But, you know, building the house, get to drinking on occasion with him and drinking Bud Ice. I remember that being one of them. A couple Jack Daniel cocktails. I remember quite a few packs of those. I remember Goldschlager. I remember one time taking a triple shot of Goldschlager. I was a kid with two grown men, and the two grown men went to sipping, and I just slammed it back, and they're looking at me, and because they knew. I didn't know. I was just trying to show off. I can take a shot. That was still to this day, I have issues with Goldschlager. I went in spurts with drinking Goldschlager. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. But those years between 15 and 18 began a lot of drinking, a lot of partying. I started doing acid. All in the meantime, I'm prescribed Adderall, or Ritalin, whatever it was. One of the forms of that pill. I'd been on it since elementary school. I was one of the guinea pigs. So, I would save my pills up to the end of the week. You know, I was real good at cheeking a pill, putting under my tongue. My mom never thought anything of it. A lot of times I'd take the morning one. It was the lunch one that I would cheek. I would keep that one usually. I'd take the morning one, but I'd keep the lunch one. And not every day did I take the morning one either. But at the end of the week, I would have 5 to 10 pills. I'd give them to a couple friends. And, you know, back then gas wasn't even $1 a gallon. You'd get 5 friends to get $1 a piece. You're driving around all night long. Good times, right? Yeah. Man, I miss them times. But, on a quick side note, when I got my license, I remember pumping gas for 67.9 cents a gallon, 68 cents a gallon. Just a little side story. But anyways, between 15 and 18, I started, well, once I got my license, I started working at Ponderosa. You know, prior to that, I had been a paper boy. And even then, you know, after that was, I knew I wasn't going to be a cop. I was already smoking cigarettes. I was already smoking pot. God forbid a car be unlocked, because I would steal your cigarettes in a heartbeat. That's all I really ever took. I never took anything else. Just cigarettes. That's all we wanted. Jeff and I, that's it. That's all we wanted was cigarettes. We might have ended up with a couple other things as time went on, but 99.9% of the times we were opening cars to see if cigarettes were in it. So that was on our paper routes. But then I'm 16. Now I get a job that I gotta drive to, and $2.13 an hour. And if you know anything about Ponderosa, it's a buffet. There's none open anymore. Actually, the one that I'm talking about was one of the very last Ponderosas to close, at least in Indiana, if not the last one. I had worked there for a little while, but that's in Gary, Indiana. I met a lot of people in there that were pushing me towards a negative lifestyle. Remember that negative lifestyle that I told you guys that looked so appealing to me? Well, I got what I wanted. I got that negative lifestyle. You know, I got a gun given to me when I was 16 from a guy that was friends with a guy I worked with there. Like, we all became a pretty big group of friends. Might add, there was very few white people amongst the group of friends. We were in Gary, Indiana, and I'm talking about 98% black to white probably at this point in time. Times have changed and it's become more diverse, but I mean, irregardless, we were the minority by far. And still, you know, I get a gun, I'm selling weed on the side, I'm smoking a hell of a lot more than I'm selling. But it didn't really matter. I wasn't messing any packages up or anything like that. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't start selling anything like that till a little bit after the high school incident, me getting kicked out of high school. But what I'm telling you now is what's going to lead into me getting kicked out of high school. So a little pot, I'm partying a little bit, and after about a year, I went to work at Hardees because some of my friends went and worked at Hardees. You know, we were all trying to stick together. And I met a lot of great people working at Hardees. And, all right, this was a Hardees that was on the toll road. There was a south side one and a north side one. I worked at the south side one. And working at Hardees wasn't like working at any other restaurant. It wasn't like waiting. I remember watching somebody get beat up by 15 to 20 people on the cash register line while people were waiting for food at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. No exaggeration. This wasn't your typical, I'm 100% safe to go in because it's a toll road truck stop. This wasn't that. This was a very dangerous place if it needed to get dangerous. I'm not saying it was dangerous every time we went to work. Not normally, but I remember one girl throwing a knife at a guy in the back and stabbing him. And it was over. He wouldn't do something. I don't remember. He wouldn't shake the fries or something or lift the fries out of the fryer. I don't remember. It was something very petty. But I saw a lot of, I was open, my eyes were open to a lot of different things at Hardees. Cocaine, I started sniffing cocaine here and there. Like, I never really liked coke until I was a little bit older. And then one day I just woke up and I didn't like coke anymore. And still to this day, I couldn't imagine wanting to feel like that. Even prior to quitting using heroin, I didn't like to use coke. So, but we 18 years old, you know, my senior year is about to start, and I get a new, well, it wasn't new, I get a used Colt 45 off a friend of mine. 1911 Colt 45. You know, that's the gun of all guns. I love that gun. And just like my other gun that I had just gotten rid of, I unloaded. There was a gun. It was in my car. It was unloaded. The glove box was locked, and somebody had called Crime Stoppers on me. It was a group. There was a small group of friends. It could have been. I have my own ideas of who it was, but, you know, that wasn't even what put me down to the road of real hell. Yeah, it gave me a felony, but like I said yesterday, it wasn't as, it would have been a misdemeanor had I had it registered, because the laws back then in 1999 weren't what they are now. Especially when it came to guns on school property, you could, at certain places, ride to school with your shotgun in your window because people would go hunting. Hell, first day of hunting, it'd be an excused absence day in some places. And I'm talking 20 minutes south of here. So we're in Indiana. We're a pretty Republican state, if you'd ask me. I mean, if you'd ask the votes. But, so, yeah, I get arrested for that, bond out. About a year later, I'm sentenced August 22nd of 2000. And, that's when things started getting bad. All right. So I refused to quit smoking pot. There wasn't a day I was out on bond that I didn't smoke, and there wasn't a day on probation I didn't smoke. I would drink that stuff, and it would help. It would clean me up. But one thing they do not tell you on those bottles is that you build a tolerance to it. The only way to ensure that you're gonna piss clean is to not get high while you're on probation or any court supervision. I kept getting high, kept popping dirty. I want to say somewhere around March of 2001, I couldn't be the exact date, walked into the courthouse, was arrested for multiple violations of probations, and ended up being told I could complete a drug class in order to get out, or I can just sit there for the rest of my sentence, which I believe was January 29th of the next year of 2002. So I would you know, at that point in time, that amount of time seemed like an eternity, but obviously I'm shooting for the program. Well, unfortunately, I was like a day late for signing up the program, so I had to wait 8 weeks for the program to sign up to start again, and then a few more weeks for the class to actually start. Ended up going from March till September 13th. I was actually in jail during the September 11th 9/11 attacks, which was, by the way, a horrifying thing to sit there helpless. I mean, given that the jail was a majority white, anybody that claimed Muslim was immediately segregated for their own safety. It was just a nonsense. There was nothing that was going to happen in this jail. I can't be so sure, but I'm pretty sure nothing would have happened. It was a old school jail, old style jail, bars and everything like that. So, I mean, if you wanted to fight, I mean, that was a way to, that was a lot of places in there where we could get away with fighting. So, that's, those 5 months, 6 months, that's a very short time, but at 19, 20 years old, you learn a lot. I mean, I'm not saying I learned how to do prison time in that time, but you learn a lot of ways how not to carry yourself, at least. You learn how to carry yourself, or, I mean, you can just be a complete jackass and not take any of it in, like some people. But I learned how to conduct myself while I was incarcerated. There's something down inside me saying, this might not be it for me. This might not be the last time I'm incarcerated. But I want it to be. I was wrong. I was way wrong of not being, or it being the last time I went to prison, because I ended up getting out of jail September 13th of 2001. I'm not kidding you. I got off probation February. 3 weeks later, I got arrested again for a joint, even though even though I was only charged with a small possession of marijuana. That's that own cop's fault. I'm not gonna lie. There was a lot more in that car. Had he just looked, he found a book bag and pulled it out and found my buddy's half a joint. And because I was the driver of the car and he owned the bag, we both went. Had he just looked under the seat, there was a couple big bags. I mean, a couple ounces. Considered, I mean, they were in pretty big bags, though. I mean, there was 2 ounces that were in a big, like, pound bag, freezer bag, because, I mean, we were idiots. We didn't really care. There was a gun in the car, there were scales in the car, and there were pills in the car. Because at this point in time, I forgot to tell you, after I got out of jail, I did not start smoking pot again until, okay, I wasn't off probation, but I was almost off probation. That's when I had found ecstasy. Until then, I was afraid of ecstasy. Those months between September 13th and me getting off probation, I did nothing but ecstasy, and I was doing it like every other day. I'll explain what a piece of shit how I acquired. Actually, I'm just going to explain that now. We were stealing money. We were stealing money from Hardees. Not just me. We had a little ring going on. I was actually probably the one that was taking the least of it, because there was a manager in on it. I'm not going to call you out there. I hope you're watching. If not, man, I know sometime maybe you will. And another friend, it was the 3 of us that worked the midnight shift. And the other friend had access to the lotto machines. I've never questioned how he was the smartest guy that was using it for the dumbest reasons I've ever met at that point in time of my life. Still, shout out to you. I hope you know who you're talking about. I know if you're seeing this, you know who you're talking about. I seen this man, not only you know how to turn the power back on when you get your electric cut off. You know, they usually put a piece of plastic in there. He'd go in there and take that plastic out. Well, it comes to a point where, you know, they'll take the meter off. I've seen them turn it back on then. After that, they took the whole meter off. Man, this man had his house running off of jumper cables. He hooked something together. I seen somebody else try it, blew quarter of the whole town out. So, I don't know, this man's pretty smart. Things I would never do. But the money that was coming in, I didn't pay for cigarettes for 6 months. I was basically getting paid to eat ecstasy, and the girls I would have around were doing ecstasy. We were just, and there was gangbanging going on at this point, you know. Somebody I'm going to call my cousin. We call ourselves cousins. It's not by blood, but there's a reason why we call ourselves cousins. Big rah-rah, shout out to you, big dog. Miss you, homie. I'll see you soon. He moved up to Madison. There's reasons he can't come to Indiana or stay around this area. So we're just going to leave it at that. The things that me and him got into, man, I'm not going to describe too much of it because, I mean, needless to say, I know how to cook crack in a coffee pot. Got good at that. And I mean, I could eat a lot of ecstasy. I was doing cocaine, never smoked crack at that point in time. That was an absolute no-no. I also was popping pills, though, Vicodins, doing some Xanax here and there, but I wasn't really into them at that point. I did get into them, though. shortly thereafter. So ended up going to the doctor and ended up getting put on painkillers, and it was really easy to get put on painkillers back then. I had legit back problems, wasn't sure what it was. They told me I had scoliosis, a slip disc or something like that. In the meantime, my back's in constant pain. Found out many years later, actually after I got out of prison in 2015. I want to say I found out in 2016 that at some point in time I had broke my back and didn't know it. So I've had back problems for a long time, a lot of pain. Right now, as I sit, my back hurts. So I was popping a lot of pills at that point in time, a lot of pills. And like I had told you yesterday, I'd drive Kenny out to Lake Station. He'd get his crack. He'd owe me a prescription of Vicodins, or I said his name, but you know, there's a lot of Kennys out there, sorry. But shout out to you. I mean, we've all cleaned up our lives or died since then, most of us. But shout out to you, Kenny. I've heard you cleaned up your life. I know you're doing good, so hope you're feeling good though. But anyways, I was eating pills like Tic Tacs. The girl I was with was eating pills like Tic Tacs. I mean, basically, from that point on, I was a damn party animal. I want to say I was 22 at that point in time. I got married 4 days after I turned 23, and I liked to party. And, you know, I partied until 2012, on and off, mostly on. I was also being a dad. I was also holding jobs down, but I was also doing some hustling. I did what I had to do. You know, I wasn't the greatest person in the world. I never did neglect my son or anything like that. And, you know, my son would vouch for that. I never neglected him. He never went without or anything like that. I wasn't making hundreds of thousands of dollars or something selling dope, because I wasn't selling dope like that. It would be an on and off thing. And unfortunately, there was more usage with people in situations than there was making money at this point. So, anyways, that's what started the lead into my addiction. And I just wanted to get that out there, you know, that covered the years up until I went to hell. I mean, that's when I should have taken that left-hand turn, because I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew it all. My dad would tell me no. I wouldn't listen. They'd tell me to zig. I'd be zagging. You know, doing everything the wrong way. So, by the way, this is here for educational purposes. I don't want to ever see anybody go down the roads I've gone down. Some of the roads I had fun during them, I'm not going to lie, but don't go down them. But if you do go down them, I'm going to help you make better decisions than I did while you're making those wrong turns. You know, one big thing is, if you're going to be dabbling with the drugs, and a lot of people say the weed ain't a gateway drug. And I'm not saying it is for everybody, but I'm saying, had I never smoked weed, I would have never thought of anything else. So that's food for thought. But had I never smoked a cigarette, I'd have never thought about smoking weed either. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? But anyways, that's another one at you. You know, If they ain't hating it, you ain't making it.